Hello, Miss Madrano. Thank you so much for letting me interview you for my class. So first I'll start off by asking, how was your day today?
I had a pretty decent day. So I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I teach science, so I have two 8th grade classes, two 7th grade classes, and two 6th grade classes. I get the 8th graders when they're nice and sleepy in the morning, and the 6th graders when they're more awake at the end of the day. But 6th graders and 8th graders are completely different beasts. For 8th graders, they try and please their friends more than you, and the little 6th graders, they're so short compared to the 8th graders, and they try and please you more than their friends. So they're more likely to be like, Miss Madrano, did I do a good job? Look how good I did, Miss Madrano.
So would you say you'd rather be teaching the 6th grade all day or the 8th grade all day?
I should prefer the 7th grade. So the 7th grade are that nice in between where they can do more independent work than the 6th graders, but they're not as moody, I would say, as the 8th graders.
So, 7th graders. Do you have like a daily or weekly routine? So like do the students know what to expect when they walk into your classroom every day, or do you kind of switch it up?
Yeah, so every day it's pretty similar. So since they come from different grades, they switch classes throughout the day. I always have them line up outside of the lockers that we have, and they have to wait for all the other classes to line up because I don't want them going in chunks. I want them to all go in together. So I have them line up, and then I hand out a sheet while they walk in the door, and then I put on a timer for 5 or 10 minutes. And during that time, they either do the worksheet, obviously, that's pretty much the only option. But while they're doing that, if they finish early, they're allowed to read a book if they finish early, but most of them use the whole time. It's important to have something to do for them if they do finish early, so that way they don't just go around and talking or messing with other people. So I always tell them if you finish early, do a book, but pretty much takes most of them most of the time. And then after that, we read our schedule, we read our objective for the day. Then we do whatever our notes are or our classwork, science, so we might be in the lab. And then we always end with an exit slip. So for the exit slip, it's either how did we do today, how do we feel about how we did today, do we feel like we know the content, and they'll write, I feel great about today, I feel like I know a lot, or I could use some more work on this, or something like that. Or it's either questions about what we did content-wise. So it'll be like, what was the answer to this? Or can you list 3 things, something like that.
So would you say the students are comfortable asking you questions if they're unsure about it?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good rapport. So if they're not sure, they're pretty good at writing, I need some more help with this. Or I got this part, but I didn't do this part. Or sometimes during class, I'll have them give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or sideways if they're not sure. And sometimes I'll look around the room, and sometimes there'll be a few thumbs down. And I know if that person has a thumbs down, other people probably do too. So I go back and recover some of that information a little bit better.
So, right before this interview, I was reading an article about rewarding the reward system, whether it's a good idea to reward students after a good behavior or good action, or if they're capable of doing the action, should they still be rewarded, or if it's tougher for them. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's good to have a behavioral system. So I think it's good to have positive things and negative things. What our school does is you get a slip to take home inside your parents for behavior, for being prepared for class, and for missing homework. So even though they switch the classes, we have an Excel spreadsheet, and they get a tally if their behavior was bad in class, or if they're missing homework, or if they left a book at home or something for preparedness. And that travels from class to class with them. So if they misbehaved in my class, they can get a behavioral slip. If they misbehaved in another class, they get a second one. And if you get 3 behavioral or 3 academic readiness or 3 preparedness, then you get a detention. It's 3 of any one. So it has to be 3 of the same task. And if you got 3 of the same task, then you end up with a detention. If you get 3 detentions, you don't get the incentive trip at the end of the quarter.
Okay, so I know this is your first year in the Catholic school, and before this you were in a public school. Are there any differences with that with the reward system and the punishments?
Yeah, I would say there's a big difference between the rewards and the punishments. For the private school, I feel like they have higher expectations. So for the the private school have higher expectations. So the private school, I mean, you don't need to be there. They can kick you out if they don't want to deal with you. So they have harsher expectations than I think the public school does. And it's not to say that the public school doesn't have expectations. Like, they have the same expectations, but it's the level. So the dress code, I'd say they can get in trouble for the dress code, whereas at a public school, they're pretty much allowed to wear whatever they want within reason. They get slips for that, and I feel like if you correct the minor things, it stops the major things from happening at all.
Right. So what is your classroom management philosophy?
Keep them busy, 100% keep them busy. If they're busy, they can't be getting in trouble, they can't be doing anything else because they have to work on their stuff. Correct the stuff early, so if they are doing something they shouldn't be doing, if they're goofing off or staying off task or talking or something like that, they should be corrected early on, especially in the year. So you have to be consistent, and you have to do it early on in the year so that it doesn't build, because they're going to try and push you to the limit. So you have to figure out first what your limits are. So make sure you know that before you even start the year, and then be consistent with it. So make sure you really enforce it at the beginning of the year. Practice your routines at the beginning of the year so that when you're in the classroom, you're good to go.
So how would you describe your administrative boundaries?
I would say don't be friends with your students. Definitely get to know them and be personable with them, but there's a line there. So you're a teacher, not a friend. You want to be someone they can trust. So that means like enforcing the rules consistently with everyone fairly. Like, obviously there's some exceptions you're going to have based on the kid, but in general, you should have the same expectations for all the kids. You do want to ask them how their day is. You do want to ask them how their game went or how their games or what games they like video games or something. But you don't want to be like, oh, let's go play this game together, or, oh, you know what, we should really play that new Xbox game or that new Minecraft game. We don't need to be doing that, because that's the line that you shouldn't be crossing. Especially with social media, they don't need to be. A lot of the kids, every single kid pretty much asks me, what's your Snapchat, what's your Instagram, what's that? And you do not give that, because that is definitely a line they should not be crossing.
Right. So what successes do you think you have any examples with your classroom management?
Successes, for sure. At the end of class, my chairs are all nicely pushed in. My room is nice and tidy. My kids are well behaved during class. I would say that's pretty good success.
So what worked for you?
Being consistent. For sure, being consistent. The chairs is something you practice at the beginning of the year a lot. So if they don't have it pushed in the first time, you go, oh wait, go back, push in your chair before you line up. And you don't want them to leave the room until everyone's in a line and their chairs are perfectly pushed in. That way, when you go, okay, have a nice day, push in your chairs and go line up, all their chairs are pushed in because they don't want to have to go back and push it in and be called out.
Right. So have you had any failures with your classroom management?
For sure. Let's see. Biggest failure would be, I would say, when I wasn't so early on, I wasn't as consistent as I could have been. And I think that made it more difficult because the kids didn't know how far they could push or
right,
what to expect. Right, because
it's your first year at the Catholic school.
Yeah, especially, yeah. Well, I wouldn't say the Catholic school because now I know what I'm doing more. I would say my first year at all was a very big learning experience.
So what didn't really work for you?
What didn't work for me? Well, obviously the consistency. So when I wasn't consistent, I would say that was the harder time because it'd be like, oh, well, I'll just let it go this time. And then, because you're so busy throughout the day, it's like, I don't have time to get that down. And then at the end of the day, you'd be like, oh, you know what, I probably should have yelled at that kid or corrected that kid for that, and you didn't do it. And then that makes it worse because then they know they can get away with it. So definitely I worked on consistency, and that helped me a lot.
So, do you have any advice for me or my classmates, soon to be teachers?
Definitely start off strong. Definitely have them practice their procedures consistently for a long time. Set high expectations for them. Explain to them why you have high expectations, all the goals you want them to achieve, why it's important that they do this, and have them say that in their own words so that they can at least take responsibility for it. Don't let them push you, because they will try and push you. Don't give in to things you know you shouldn't be giving in, because they're going to go, oh, well, this teacher does this, or the other teacher does that, or, well,
Right.
last year we did it, and you just go, no.
Do you have a lot of posters around your room, like inspirational posters?
Oh, yeah. Be positive like a proton. That's right in my corner. And they know it, too, because it's so big, and they go, oh, positive like a proton. Yep. We have quotes up that the kids can put up. Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you so much for meeting with me. And I hope you have a great rest of your school year.
Hey, you too, and good luck.